How many lives we need to lose? What should be the murder rate in St. James before we declare or put in place measures that can actually save lives? My concern, and if I was a political advisor, if I was a politics man, I would have calculated and I would have said to myself, I would have calculated to myself and say, look, if it is that we wait until the murder get back out of control, how would you explain to the persons who would have lost lives during from now until whenever that time is? How would one explain that? Now what people need to understand, and this is what we can't understand why people don't see it. If you had state of emergency from January 2017 up until January 2019, so you'd have gone a year of state of emergency, you would have achieved 22% reduction in murder, 300 plus lives saved. And if that is not enough for the opposition to realize that this is a measure that works, then God Almighty, me don't know what will. Me don't know what will. Now, let's say we continue with a state of emergency and we suppress these criminal activities. Whether we find the gun or not, that is not my concern. As long as the guns are not being used to kill people, they are not being used to intimidate people, criminal element can't get to them gun, because police and a state of emergency is in place that gives the police powers, and the police feel protected under the state of emergency. Not to abuse people, not to use it in an abusive manner, but them feel a sense of protection. And that is where people don't understand the psychological effect of a state of emergency. A lot of it is psychological, you know. Because we've tried saturation before. Remember when Montego Bay in particular was getting really bad, and we sent battalions of soldiers and police down there. Never changed a damn thing. The only time we've seen result is when we declare a state of emergency. There's something about the word state of emergency that sends shockwave up the spine of a criminal. And if it's not evident to everybody, we don't know when it all get evidence. When it all get become evident that that is what it does. And it worked. The evidence is there. And I'm saying if the evidence is there, why vote against it? Was this a political calculation? Was this because of politics? Because it cannot be for any other reason. It can't be for the reason. Because if you impose a state of emergency for 10 years, let's say for the first year, you yield 22%. And the second year, you notch it up to 32%. Because every year you must be learning how to do this thing better. And the third year, you go up to 42%. So by the end of this, by the end of the PNP, the JLP tenure in office, you would have gone up to about 52% reduction in murder and in crime. Now tell me, if you can reduce murder in Jamaica by 50% of what it is now, 60, 70%, and the vehicle you use, the tool you use to get it done is a state of emergency, who gives two hoots about crime plan? We've been doing crime plan from me was a boy. Me telling already how many crime plans we have had, several. And me ask anybody who can come forward and tell me one crime plan that has ever worked in Jamaica outside a state of emergency. Bring your evidence forward. And I will keep my mouth shut. But until then, the only thing that we have ever used to reduce murders in Jamaica is state of emergency. And I cannot say for the life of me why grown men who are insulated and isolated from the effect of crime and violence would take a decision to vote against such act. Can't see it, me not get it. You know, add up to me. Because some of these decisions are common sense decisions. Furthermore, the opposition took a decision not to support the state of emergency. And let us go back to the basis under which them take the decision there. That decision was taken with a dossier provided. The report on which the opposition hinged the reason for their decision was, to say the least, I don't want to say it fictitious. I might have used that term loosely before. But let's not say it was challenged by several entities, several interest groups. Poke a lot of hole in that dossier. And at least, if you took a decision based on something that had holes in it, then your decision not really solid. Because your decision wasn't based on the premise of your argument. And if the premise is incorrect, then your argument becomes flawed. So the basis under which the opposition took the decision to not support the SOE, that basis was flawed. Proven by the child advocate, proven by the police, proven by other people, independent journalists who went there and did not see what the report said was there. The reporter again says, well, I never checked, I was relying on somebody else's report. So there was an accuracy in the dossier that was put together and given to the opposition to then come to the conclusion not to support. So if you make a mistake and you realize that you were led astray by somebody who, in my view, proven to be incompetent or otherwise, then you must reverse the decision. So that is on that basis that I believe that the opposition erred big time, big error, and took a decision that was ill-advised. And it's simple. What you have done now is you've unleashed on the society, in their psyche, because there's several people in Montego Bay and in St. Catherine too, who believe that by virtue of not having a state of emergency, in their mind, things are going to go back to what it was before. And that is a fear, and it's a fear that we worry about. We still hold and hope that we might be fortunate enough to get a goodly gentleman